Well, it was probably about 6 months after I got into it, so sometime in the middle of 2006. I think like a lot of you, when I got into FreePBX, some of you, or into Asterisk, some of you, a lot of you in here may remember there was this hobbyist project called Asterisk at Home, right? And Asterisk at Home was the first distro where a particular individual had kind of cobbled together Asterisk, had cobbled together this piece of software called AMP, which was Asterisk Management Portal, kind of threw it all on so you could put the ISO in the system and boot it. And that's actually how I first got introduced to Asterisk, kind of dove in, playing with it during my addiction stage, which has, by the way, never ended. And what I watched as I joined the community, and the community being a huge motivation, just people wanting to help each other and move forward and all of that, was you have this kind of hobbyist project, right, on top of this great but still young Asterisk, still lots of bugs, maturing, kind of moving along, but huge potential. And it was being deployed like wildfire. Businesses left and right were deploying it, and I thought, this is great, and it's a train wreck waiting to happen. Because,
how did you know these businesses? Because if they're just downloading this stuff,
at the time I didn't have metrics, right? At the time, I just watching the explosion, right? Being part of the community, just seeing if I could see so much happening and so much adoption, right? I wasn't in a place to have metrics yet, but it was clear that it was taking off, and what it really needed was harnessing some discipline around it, right? Getting it, there was no proper release, right? The AMP project turned to FreePBX, and I kind of refer to that time as the 60s for FreePBX. It was this big love fest. All this stuff.
It's still a big love fest.
Absolutely. Things were being thrown in left and right? There was no release in Target. It was being run by Rob Thomas, who's a great leader, who's rejoined the team, by the way. Those of you who have known Rob is back active with FreePBX now. But it didn't have the project management. It didn't have a release in sight. And it was at that time where I realized that this is awesome and it can do great things, right? It needs to be harnessed, and that's when I noticed it.
Okay, thanks. So, Olle, not only have you co-created AstriCon, but you've been a long-term contributor. Your interaction with the project, what's the moment that's made you the happiest of it?
Oh, the moment that made me happiest.
Obviously, there are many, many happy moments for you.
Oh yeah, I mean there are happy moments. I mean I still remember when Mark committed my first piece of code, and then when I got commit rights, that wasn't happiness. That was just being
let's just stick with that.
plain being scared. But the happiness came later when I started committing and realizing that everyone in the community will see my lousy code. But because we're a love fest, as you say, that's a safety net. People helped me to produce better code. I was just crazy starting to do it. But there are too many happy moments here to really pick a single one.
I can see tears in the eyes.
Oh, it's all my friends here.
So Mark, what's the weirdest or craziest feature request that you have for Asterisk?
Gosh, I don't know if I could pick a single weirdest feature request. I can remember that the alarm receiver app, I'm just going to go out here and say, is there anybody in the audience that has used the alarm receiver app? Wow, we actually have two people that have used it. It was so far out of the scope of what I ever envisioned for Asterisk. And yet it was there, and it was easy to add it in and make it available as a feature. And that was sort of became something of the archetype for why open source was so important, because somebody could put something like that was clearly never going to make it onto a regular feature list, and have it be able to be committed and added into the software.
Well, I'm rather old, it takes time to remember. I just turned 50, but don't tell anyone. One of the happy moments I realized was when I saw, I believe you were there as well, at the Bond Trade Show, a bicycle that powered a small Asterisk box that we use in third world countries. And then I realized that what we're doing for businesses and producing open source really help people out there. So they use this to set up peer-to-peer networks between villages in order to place emergency calls to doctors. Instead of traveling for hours and hours and hours, maybe days, they could just sit on a bicycle or use a solar panel and set up radio networks across the villages. And that really, really made me proud to be an Asterisk developer and made me happy.
So that's a wonderful thing. By the way, Ole's here, of course, with full duration, so feel free to go up to him and say, give me another happy moment, because he's got a lot of them. One-to-one happy moment. So, Alistair, just bringing things up to date, what has Asterisk done for you in terms of business? Where does your business stand in terms of deployment?
So at the minute we have 51 production clusters among 42 customers, mostly in North America and Europe, but a few in the rest of the world as well. We have in the region of 500,000 deployed endpoints, and our biggest customer has a little over 150,000 users.
Right, amazing. And Philippe, let me ask you the same question. You didn't have metrics in the old days, but you found a way to get them in there. What do they tell you these days?
Well, so of course, FreePBX being open source, we have the similar challenges that Asterisk has in counting, but we do have a lot of mechanisms for metrics. And, excuse me, we are looking at an installed base of systems somewhere north of 1 million that we're able to count.
That's something.
Right, and that translates to somewhere north of 20 million installed users. The thing that's so exciting about this is I looked at those metrics. I was looking at some old slides from an Asterisk World presentation I did 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, it was about 200,000. So that's a 5x growth in either the installed base or our ability to count the installed base in that time. I looked at the web traffic. That one's definitely something we can count. Thank you, Google. Is 3x increase just in our web traffic from that same time period. So it's just super exciting to see that sort of growth for FreePBX and the Asterisk community.
Well, thank you. So, by the way, I should have mentioned, we're going to probably have about 10 minutes for some audience questions. So if you've got dreamed up any questions you want to ask this unique collection of people, just think on those for a moment. But I want to ask a general question. Anybody can pick this up. What's the coolest feature that Asterisk hasn't got that it should?
3D holographic sessions. I'm really waiting for those, because then I don't have to travel around the world. And in joining open source, I didn't know how much traveling that involved and how much wonderful people I was going to meet all around the globe and how many cool dinners.
I'm not sure the world is ready for the lady to just show up. we need more.
Just wait for that call. I mean, I believe Matt Jordan and Mark and the team can do wonders. So I'm just waiting for the 3D holographic session.
Anybody else want to pick that one up?
Power over wireless internet.
Yeah.
Perpetual motion. All right, so we've been dwelling on the past unnecessarily, so it's a nice time to reflect. So let's think about the future. And I'd like each of you to answer the question, what would you like to see in the future of Asterisk? And Mark, since you started, I'd like you to answer the question first.
Sure. Well, I mean, in the beginning, Asterisk really started life as an application. It was the PBX by itself. And over time, as communications has gotten a lot more integrated, Asterisk has become more and more of a toolkit that people have used to create other applications. I think that's a large part of where Asterisk is going to go going forward, is being able to better integrate with other technologies, whether it's improved programmability through better APIs like the ARI that's going to be in Asterisk 12, or whether it's the more work being done on the WebRTC to kind of cross some barriers there, integrating web and telephony technologies, or even just other sorts of media like video and desktop sharing being more easily integrated. But I think Asterisk is transitioning from being the application itself to being a toolkit to create the next generation of integrated communications applications.
Alistair, how would you respond?
I'd agree with that strongly. In the early days, Asterisk was, of course, intended as a PBX, but many people, including ourselves, used it as a platform. And to begin with, it felt like we were slightly abusing it, but over time, Asterisk has very much matured in terms of APIs and scalability and such like. So it's become an excellent platform, particularly Asterisk 12 with the REST API. It's exactly what application developers need to develop higher level telephony applications. So in terms of what I'd like to see for the future, I would very much like to see the REST API expanded and become the standard way to interface with Asterisk.
Okay, Philippe, same question.
My answer is very much similar. I mean, we, FreePBX, as kind of Mark says, we've taken Asterisk and made it our telephony engine. And, in addition to configuring some of the configuration files and the things FreePBX does, it's expanded to all sorts of programming. We've added features in FreePBX. We go in through the AGI. Sometimes we go from the AGI into the AMI because the AGI can't do what the AMI does. And sometimes we use that route from the AMI to kind of go into the CLI to do a command because there's no command in there, right? And then the whole ecosystem around us, which connects through the manager, does similar things. It's been the huge power of Asterisk to be able to do that. With the fantastic work, when you ask me what would I like to see in Asterisk, and the great thing is what I'd like to see is what Matt and the team in Asterisk 12 is doing right now, right? The REST interface, and the REST interface expanding, right, beyond what the awesome capabilities of kind of channel control and what the initial design of that REST interface was, to really become the interface to do all of these challenges and all of these applications. I think with that interface, you expand the universe of developers who can contribute. Because kind of going through those back doors 3 levels deep takes a lot of creativity and a lot of motivation to figure it out.
Well, I believe the power of Asterisk is right here in this room. It's all of you guys. Well, I'll tell you, we need to stand up to the Matt Jordan challenge for sure. Matt and Mark Michelson have led a team that created a new generation, a second generation of Asterisk. It's a huge investment by Digium. But now we in the community need to stand up and really take the challenge and start using it. I believe this is the platform we need for the new generation of users, because at the next AstriCon, we'll begin meeting new friends, people coming here that have no interest in telephony. They use Asterisk, as Mark said, as a platform for new cool applications. They want a media framework. They want to build talking machines with speech recognition and Allison speaking. We're going to see a whole new generation. But now we in the community need to really stand up to challenge and test, run Asterisk 12 and help build the next generation of Asterisk, because Matt and Mark has taken us on the right path. Now we need to work together, as we did before, to really make this happen. Deliver the 3D holographic sessions.
I get the impression you're excited over it.
Yeah. I'm really excited about the next generation of Asterisk. We've been waiting for this for a long time. We had multiple AstriDevCons discussing it, and suddenly it happened. I'm really, really grateful for the investment by Digium, but now we all need to start working with it.
Okay, well thank you. Now we do have time for just 2 or 3 questions. It's difficult to see. We've got a couple of mic runners, so if you've got a question for any or all of these folks, just pop your hand up, please.
Oh, I see you!
There's someone out there.
Hiya!
So, we do. Oh yes, there's a question just there, please, Tash.
So this question's for Mark. You know, I think a lot of us in the room are probably sole proprietors. We have small businesses, kind of as Linux support services started out. What do you think would be your best piece of advice for those of us that are small? You know, it's us. We're starting to grow. We have customers that have recognized the value of Asterisk. How do we take it from here? What's your best piece of advice for a startup or a business that's growing?
Run far, far away. No. Wrong one. Okay. No. I think you have to start with the customers. I mean, I get a lot of people that come to me now sort of with different business ideas, and one of the first questions I ask people is, why is it that you want to start your own business? And usually if I hear somebody say, well, because I want to be my own boss, or I'm tired of reporting to somebody else, that's just sort of a recipe for disaster right there. You know, you've got to have something where you want to do something really good for a customer. And a lot of that has kind of played through here. I mean, when we started out, I mean, the focus was really on trying to make Asterisk the best product that we could for people to be able to use, and just figured that the business would kind of follow along with that.
By giving it away.
By giving it away. And it's, we're not the size of Aya, almost we're not the size of Nortel, but
yet.
We used to, we're definitely bigger than Nortel is now. We used to joke about one day we'd buy Nortel when we got really big, but couldn't have envisioned quite how that would pan out. But anyway, all that being said, we have, even as a relatively small company, obviously been able to make a pretty tremendous impact on the industry as a whole. And a lot of that just stems from really starting with the customer first and letting the rest of it kind of work its way through.
Okay, thanks for that question. We're going to take just 1 or 2 more. On the video clip, can you cue that video clip up for after this next question, please? Where was the next question coming from?
Alex Newman.
Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. You've mentioned some interesting figures in growth. How much of that would you say is in Latin America and other emerging markets, and how much of that do you think is due to partners like Elastics, for example?
I take it that's for me. So I don't have the numbers in front of me. A pretty significant part of that growth is actually in some of the numbers that we have is in the US and Canada, a decent amount in Europe. Russia actually has quite a bit, what comes to memory. I believe there's a pretty significant part of the growth in Latin America. Elastics is the distro that tends to have quite a bit of growth in that space. Again, the challenge, of course, that we have is trying to count, right? And trying to count meaningful numbers, which isn't how many downloads are there, how many people do we think, it's who do we actually know that's there, what systems do we actually see that are actively being maintained, what systems do we see that are actively accessing their systems, accessing the GUIs, etc. So, the exciting thing really is there's a huge growth and it's everywhere. I mean, there's no question in some of your more developing countries where free it becomes a lot more important, is significant growth. But the awesome thing is that there's growth in a lot of your very strong countries, your US, your Canadas, your major economic centers.
Okay, thank you, Philippe. So I just want to take a moment now, if we could all just say a big, big thank you to our 4 keynotes.